So, how many of you have had an experience with a UFO, UAP entity? And with that, and you can write that in the comments, how many of you have had something like the following? You're inside, you've got to go outside, let's say check on the car, though you know the car's locked and it's fine. And as soon as you go out to go and check on the car, you see something anomalous in the sky. Talking to thousands of people, I can tell you that this is a common thing, whether it's to go and check the mail, check the car, the go and get the bin, or go and put the bin out and do it at a certain time and you don't know why, or take something out to the bin. There's 100 different ways that this can play out, but this is what I call thought transfer. That you have a thought that you've got to go outside, you don't know why, but it's under the guise usually starting out that you've got to go and check on something, and then you go out and then you see something. That can be an on and off thing for quite some time for a lot of experiences, to the point to where you start to know that they're outside. And you don't have to go outside to interface with them. But in a majority of cases, if people aren't adapted to seeing some of these intelligences in apparition form like a ghost, sometimes they can appear like shadow beings, a flicker of light. They can fully materialize, but what happens in a lot of cases to cause minimal disruption from my intel and my experiences is that they will usually be in the presence of people. They can feel it, the energy. They may not even know that they're interfacing with something, but there can be downloads, thought transfer occurring that is the actual contact. And to let them know that something's going on, they'll be left with the thought, go outside, I've got to go outside. They go outside and then they see a craft. That is what we could say the after effect in some cases to the contact, and in some cases it can be the start of it, to where you may want to go and meditate and be in a meditative state, and now you can start to meet them on a level playing field with resonating the consciousness aspect from you and them, and have a coherent contact. And it's not going to be the case with every intelligence, of course, but there is an aspect with this to where some of these beings are physical intelligences and they're using consciousness assisted technologies to interface with you, and you get that thought. Sometimes they're extremely highly telepathic and they're purely disconnecting with you psychically, and they may be physical still. In some cases they'll be transdimensional intelligences, interdimensional intelligences, light beings, and they will choose to interface again through just thought, ideas, epiphanies, concepts. And this is why I go into the connecting to your guides technique, which is free on the YouTube channel, as a practice method of interfacing with extraterrestrial intelligences, angelic intelligences, ultra terrestrials, fairies, Bigfoot, the like. It's all connected. And so it's getting to a point to where the communication literally can take seconds. And it's not about speed, but it's a byproduct of multidimensional mind. So in a lot of cases, people get thoughts, ideas, epiphanies, concepts, these downloads, and there's sort of like certain subjects or titles they will sort of feel that they could group it under or put it under. And that is what I would equate to the chapter heading of the intel. The paragraphs are more feeling and knowingness that could take quite a long time to explain to somebody the actual information, and you could go on a rant. And that's because there's a lot of information that comes in those packets of just information downloads. So the common theme here with all this is that people are not educated on their thoughts, ideas, epiphanies, concepts as forms, in some cases, of multidimensional communication. That you can also have your own information from your higher self come through that way, as well as Source, God, Source, Creator. And as you go up, it's more of a feeling, a knowingness, and it's beyond the five sense reality and sort of what most would deem what they would think is normal in terms of communication. But that feeling, that knowingness along with emotions is a lot more complex than what you could get anything through visualization. Visualization is such a small part of that. And in the human experience, it's a very important part of that. And rightly so, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. This is where some people say I don't get third eye imagery or really have dreams, but I get feeling and knowingness. That's just as much of a powerful tool in your spiritual toolbox as getting information in the mind's eye. But I believe everyone can operate on all senses if practiced, open to it. But you've got your main tools. And just because you feel and know, don't belittle it just because you're not getting visions. There is an aspect with this as well of being stubborn, discerning, believing everything. We really need a balance within all this, and that's why I come back to what's the fruit in the information. How's the information helping you be a better person, be of service? We know with consciousness, our thoughts are like seeds, and you want to be very wary and very conscious of your thoughts in terms of what you give energy to. Because, as they say, energy flows where the attention goes. And so there is an aspect with this, from my experience, that a lot of the thoughts are forms of communication. Just like with a lot of psychics, they've got their own way that they operate, but it's the thought, the idea, the epiphany, the concept, and knowingness, they've got their own ways that they operate. And it's you finding your own manual in this, because we're all slightly different, and what works for one person may not work for another. But this is why it comes down to practicing and playing with these abilities in your own way. Again, it can be the connecting to your guides technique I've got up. It doesn't have to be, but that is a method and a protocol to where if you practice with it and play with it and then start making it your own in your own way, you'll start to realize that you've always had a connection.